Welcome back to another heart to heart conversation. And y'all, February is all about love. So for this love series, I have brought on such a special person, Katie Sir, known as the first date expert.
The
So
what?
what is this? Do tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you do, why you're here. I'm just so pumped to have you on.
Thank you so much, Marissa. I really appreciate it. And so I am the first date expert. I focus on helping people, I say create connections that count. So the biggest misconception with first date expert is like, oh, I don't want to just go on a million first dates. I want, and my whole thing is you got to go on the right first dates. You got to set yourself up for success and put yourself in a position to succeed. And that's my whole mission. And so I focus with young adults and just helping people get off to the right start. Get off on the right foot, in order to start their dating career and start creating connections and relationships in their life, and whether it's social or romantic or professional and things like that. All of the principles I teach, the lessons I focus on are universal, and it's just really special to be able to focus on first dates because I think there's such a key element there that a lot of young adults get kind of lost in the shuffle. And so often people don't take the time to either ask foundational questions, or no coaches take the time to honor those questions in a non-judgmental way. And so that's where I like to come alongside people and kind of guide them through in a totally loving, sisterly, tell it how it is type of way, which has really been fun to engage with.
Your work is so needed in the world. So thank you for doing what you do.
Oh, yeah, my pleasure. Cute. I love that.
Yeah. Well, and I'm like, I literally was telling a friend the other day, I was like, so we learned about the Pythagorean theorem, and I have not used that since I learned about it. But where are the classes about conflict resolution or communication or
Yeah.
relationships? Like, when did we learn that?
What's the, remind me, what's the I remember that. What is it?
Oh, shoot. You put me on the spot. Now I'm like,
The Pythagorean theorem.
is
Is
it
it?
like the A plus B? It was some formula. Did it have to do with triangles? I don't even know. Now I'm like making a fool of myself.
Is that the A squared plus B squared equals C squared, or is that
That
something different?
that might be it. There was a
Ah,
song I think I learned about it, but it's like I said, it's escaped my mind. There's
this is
probably
life as entrepreneurs where we're like, we don't really need the crap we learned in school. Like, this doesn't apply
yes.
anymore.
Oh my gosh, there's probably listeners right now who are like rolling their eyes like, Marissa,
Yeah.
let me tell you about the Pythagorean theorem.
Please, listeners, reach out to me personally and inform me
Yes.
because I
Seriously, yeah, send us a message, enlighten us, because clearly that is not our expertise.
no kidding. We are wise in plenty other areas of life, but
Yes. Well, and Katie, I would love to share just kind of a little backstory of why Heart to Heart Conversations started because I was,
yeah, please.
like looking at your Instagram and I see you posting about this like invisible illness thing.
Mhm.
And I would love to share. So, really, and then I would love to hear kind of your take on it because
Yeah.
why I started Heart to Heart Conversations and why I'm now a coach is because when I was 13, I was diagnosed with an atrial septal defect, which is essentially a hole in my heart. And the whole time from being diagnosed to when I had my surgery, I felt so alone. I was suffering in silence. I saw it as weakness, so I didn't tell my friends. A lot of them didn't know until the night before my surgery. And it
Mm.
very much was, as you described, an invisible illness. No one knew, right? It's like it's a hole in my heart.
Oh, for
They
sure.
couldn't see, and unless I opened my mouth and told them. And so my mission with these heart to heart conversations is to open up those conversations to have people know that they aren't alone and that like if you're out there suffering in silence, like there are people like you, like me, coaches who are here to grab your hand, walk alongside you and let you know that hey, like it's okay, it's okay
Mhm.
to be alone and feel alone, and also you aren't meant to do it alone. Like I've got you.
Yeah. I love. What has the journey been for you?
How has the journey been for me? Or
Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, so well, it was probably 6 years post surgery when I finally was like, wow, I want to own this part of my story. I'm going to open up and share about it. So it took
Yeah.
time. It took a good chunk of time. And here I am, and there's still people who don't know this about me. And so first and foremost, it was my own healing journey. And like I said, it took time. And also it's like, I look back, I wouldn't change a thing. That has led me to my purpose and what I do today.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
so good.
I don't know if your invisible illness thing is really connected to the first date and like that whole thing, but if you're open to
Mm.
sharing maybe how that's like intertwined with the work that you do or how it
Yeah.
impacts you on a daily basis, please share.
Oh, 100%. So my chronic illness, invisible illness journey is kind of been this funny as you get to, it's just this puzzle that always ends up being so complicated. Nothing really makes that much sense. And that's the whole thing too, is no one can answer this for me. Ultimately, like I've been turned away from doctors, I've been turned away from all these people and say, sorry, we don't know what to do with you. And as a young 19, 20-year-old, that's terrifying. These are the professionals that we've been, conditioned to believe that they know the answers, they can help us. And then what if they say they can't? Well, that's kind of my hippie journey where that began. And my, as I say, and my holistic approach to things is that's where that was born. So I had to drop out of college midway through my sophomore year because I had really extreme brain inflammation. I was diagnosed with really chronic Lyme disease that we think I had for years and years. Now, I'm uncovering so many things where it's like maybe it was a misdiagnosis, maybe it's been, Epstein-Barr or all these other things that are primarily trauma induced. And so that's an interesting autoimmune response to certain childhood traumas I experienced through my early years and my teen years, and how the body absorbs that and all of these emotions that they they don't just disappear when you decide you don't want to feel them.
Yep.
And that's kind of where I'm at right now too, is 2020 was so difficult on so many levels, and writing my book put me through the ringer and all of that, where that's why I'm fascinated by your work, Marissa, is the head and the heart, the mind and the body. Man, oh man, am I in a position where I'm like, I really need to start refocusing on this reconnection. And that's the same thing too with even what I coach, is like, sometimes you guys got to bring things back to the basics. Are my
Mhm.
needs getting met? And you go back to even the hierarchy of needs, and it's like the need for connection and interpersonal communication and relationships and feeling loved and accepted, that's not going away. And that is so ingrained in us. And masks and COVID and all this crap is not going to actually eliminate our inherent need for these interpersonal connections. So I'm just really excited to be able to step up in this new season that will allow people to somehow navigate their actual need for these relationships. So that's just kind of been an interesting connection to the current moment.
Yeah.
But to your, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just like, yes, like I agree 100%.
Snaps, all the snaps. And so that's kind of where my holistic journey began, is with my health. And dropping out of college, I was a D2 athlete. I played volleyball in college, and going from that to not being able to walk up the stairs is a really drastic life shift. And that's a whole, dynamic to adjust with identity, with who am I? What is my purpose? What am I doing? I had life going on this perfect little plan. Paired with that, I was in a serious relationship and almost got engaged. And with the culture I was in, I kind of come from a small Christian school culture, and that's very common.
Mhm.
And I just kind of went with the flow, got pressured into things, and it got so close where I was like, wait a second. And fortunately, we broke up because we realized we weren't the right fit, and we were so young,
Mhm.
but that was normal. That was so expected. And so having that breakup paired with my own health journey is what kind of this holistic, that's what was born with the holistic life coaching. And so that I operate as a holistic life coach,
Yeah.
and my focus and emphasis is on dating and relationships, and I call it social and dating skills, basically. And it all does tie together, because I really believe if we don't take a look under the hood, I can get, it's nothing's gonna solve anything. Sure, I can give you the best dating tips and I can come up with the best dating profile and it'll be awesome. But if you've got parts of your life that are unhealthy, that are not allowing you to be in a well-rounded position of confidence and wellness in all areas of your life, yeah, mental, physical, spiritual, everything, then we've got a problem that's absolutely gonna cause issues and infuse insecurity and things like that into your projected dating life.
Mm.
So that's what kind of fun thing is. Sure, first date expert, and it's all fun and it's awesome. And I'm so glad to give people the tips and the tricks and the empowering skills to actually say, here's this really vague topic. Let me give you a tangible tip on what to do about it,
Mm-hmm.
which is really helpful. But at the end of the day, if very classic, but if you don't love yourself, no one else is going to be able to love you. That's not how it works. There's not a gap to be filled in that way. And so I really believe all of my work is based in holistic life coaching, holistic development, holistic wellness. And so a lot of the clients that end up coming to me are these people, right now I work with a lot of men and they're like, sweet, I have this girl I like and I want to learn how to talk to her. And I'm like, that's a great start. Let's talk about your limiting beliefs that were formed in your childhood about women, like,
Ooh, getting deep. Yes. Going straight to the core.
yeah, it's like you got to get to the root cause of things. Otherwise, it's all just band-aids. And you and I both know going through, invisible illness is that band-aids don't work. And it's not like that. And you're not solving anything by just slapping a pretty picture on top of it. So that's what's fun is First Date Expert is this awesome mission and brand to empower people to learn how to connect with their interpersonal skills. But the foundation of it is you as a whole person matter. And how can you absorb that? And how can you project that? And how can you affirm that in other people as well? And that's where connections that count are born.
Yes, so beautiful. And I mean, I hear in that it's like, well, in the end, we all want to be loved and accepted.
Mhm.
And sometimes,
Totally.
yeah, that does. I mean, obviously, there's a time and place for the self-love journey, but that's where you come in for dating and the dating life and finding that special someone. And it's like, especially now during the pandemic, it's a whole new realm in dating
Totally.
world. So, I mean, can you share kind of what it's looked like from your perspective and then maybe from clients as well? Like, how is it shifting? What are people having to do differently?
Oh, the $1 million question these days is, you know, it's so challenging to figure out how to navigate because just like we said, we inherently need these relationships and connections and even physical touch. I think that's been one of the biggest griefs or things that people have been grieving is like, we need physical touch. We need that presence of other people. And so how can we navigate this? I mean, I take a pretty chill approach to things, to be honest. And so I'm kind of like, know where you're at and just communicate basically. However, I'm also in Minnesota and I'm currently sitting through a blizzard right now. So, things are difficult to navigate, especially, summer is a great dating season. Spring, summer, fall, great dating seasons because there's always, you can go for a walk, you can go for a hike, you can go kayaking, there's tons of activities that feed into my philosophy of what creates quality dates versus, and I'll just touch on this right now, coffee dates. No coffee dates. Coffee dates suck. They're terrible. I will happily do my whole rant whenever you want. But for now, we'll say, things are shifting. And so I guess my theory right now is if there's a will, there's a way. And a lot of people on dating apps are kind of seeking that connection. And if they recognize that they're like, cool, I am in a position where I want to connect with other people, they're then also affirming that that's how they feel comfortable. That's how they feel safe right now, wherever they're at with the, the COVID situation. If they're super anxious and not doing well in general, which I mean, raise your hand. We all have been anxious and depressed this year. Let's be real. So it's a challenging thing, but if they're really not in a good place mental health wise, they're not in a good place to be dating. Basically speaking, that's just kind of as a baseline. However, if they're like, cool, I feel like I have capacity to start wanting to connect with other people, then there's a way to approach that as well. And again, it depends, everyone just communicate effectively. Again, I take a pretty chill approach to things. So I'm like, cool. If you and the other person are both like, sweet, we're not sick right now, and we're not overly concerned about the people that we're interacting with regularly, then you can have different options available. However, all the places are closed. All, for us right now, the outside's all basically closed because it's just really tricky weather. We can, and I encourage people to, if you live in the northern climates, go sledding, go ice skating, figure out that stuff. That's the best type of activities you can do right now. And embrace it. Go for it. Why not? We're just like you and I were talking about, we're not traveling much anyways, like we wanted to be. So it's okay. Embrace where you're at. So the current dating culture is still being navigated. Ultimately, I think if there's a will, there's a way. I think there are still the dating principles apply. If you end up connecting with someone, you have a Zoom call. There's been a lot of Zoom dates. And with Zoom dates, I encourage people not to treat them like an interview. Instead, treat them like you're in person and treat them like you're able to flirt a little, explore, your energy and your body language, and do an activity together, play a game, cook a meal, do things like that. Keep it short and sweet still. Get a taste for their personality and if you guys jive, and then you can kind of progress from there. If you do get to a point where you're like, cool, I'm assuming they're not an axe murderer and will be a relatively safe person, then sure, have them over to your apartment and have a game night, just like a typical date thing. And of course, just use your wisdom, trust your gut. And that's a lot of what I talk about in my book too, is just the ability to trust your intuition. And I'm sure you love that, Marissa, with your work. It's like, how much in our society, in our educational system, things like that, have we totally numbed out for generations our intuition? And it's like, that's such a key point of people's dating success, is just, do I connect with this person? What does my gut tell me about them? And I think too, there's a lot that goes into that with, if you're really in tune with who you are, how you're connecting to this other person, a lot of problems will be solved from there. Hopefully, like, you'll be able to sense if things are seeming unhealthy or unsafe or whatever. Cool. Get out of there. Straight up. But if you're also sensing that they're nurturing and warm and you have your own wisdom at play too, everything will be just fine. And everyone, like, just to put a little bit of anxiety at ease, is we have so many areas of life to be anxious about right now.
True.
And we're all struggling with it. But if you can just have the confidence to say, okay, I can trust my gut. I can trust my wisdom. I have a good head on my shoulders. What do I want out of this? What's my objective at play? And we can go into that more. But dating is a different ballgame nowadays. And we're not quite sure what it's going to look like in the future. But I do firmly believe if there's a will, takeaways. If there's a will, there's a way. And our innate need for connection is not going away. So how can we adapt and still pursue, I don't know, just what we all really do want in so many different ways?
Oh my gosh, there's so much there. I'm like, okay, I definitely want to hear about the no coffee dates thing, but I also want to hear about your book because that's exciting. So I mean, choose which one you want to attack first.
Oh man. Well, let's just touch on the coffee dates real quick. Here's my spiel. Here's my mission to the world. If you could get anything out of this podcast, do not go on a first date coffee date ever again. Boom. That's all you need to
drop the mic.
Drop the mic. Take that. Walk away. The thing is, coffee dates are we've all been brainwashed to think they're normal. To think, oh, it's no big deal. Just go on a coffee date. It is a big deal because what you're doing is sitting across from another person is subconsciously the most intimidating body language that there is. Like even in puppy class, when I was training my dog, they say don't introduce dogs face to face because that's fighting stance.
Ooh, yes. It's like an interview. It's like, like I'm sweating and I'm like, oh my gosh, we're so close. And like, it's awkward.
Totally. And the other main thing, so it's like an interview, right? And job interviews, all that, it's always intimidating and scary. That's why everyone's nervous about them. And why do we think suddenly someone we might be romantically interested in is not going to be scary? It is scary. It is.
It's even more so, I feel like.
Because it's personal. And the other thing too is by the interviewing aspect of it, you have no shared experiences yet. So you're really just exchanging personal details about your past with someone you have no established trust with yet, and you may never see again. So as that builds up and you continue these habits, that's really damaging to us long term, right? And we wonder why everyone has freaking trust issues because we're just so conditioned to like, oh, here, let me tell you my life story right now without any basis of trust. And what we're actually doing is a lot of times that's built in insecurity too, of let me pitch all these things to you. Let me tell you all about myself, hoping that something sticks and is going to latch you in and say, that's the thing that hooks them. And it's, yeah, there's a lot of aspects to it, I guess. And what I recommend instead, to give a positive look on it is there's this whole principle I have called chemistry versus compatibility. On a first date, I firmly believe it's most important to assess the chemistry that you have with someone else, and the compatibility will fall where it may, and that's the thing of a first date is, do you jive with the person? Do you get along? What are your interactions like? Can you flirt a little? How do you feel around them? If you don't like that, then nothing else matters.
Wow, I love that principle.
Because otherwise we get caught in what I say, falling in love on paper. And that's the compatibility aspect. And it gets tricky with dating apps too. It's like which, chicken or the egg, which comes first kind of thing. But falling in love on paper, focusing on the compatibility prematurely ends up putting a skewed lens that we see the interactions through. So you're not actually taking it as, do we get along? Instead, you're like, I really want to get along with them. So we're going to force things. We're going to make things, try to make it happen because, we'd be so, so perfect together. Look at all these things we have in common, or look at how we are on paper and how we match up. But that doesn't actually give yourself the permission of, but what if I just don't jive with them? Because then we put ourselves in unhealthy situations.
And I think that's where the trusting your gut and your intuition comes into play, like you said earlier.
Totally.
And I just gotta say, I'm so glad you're talking about this coffee date thing, because I thought I was the weird one who, everyone else, they're big on the coffee dates, or even, meeting at a bar or something like that, or dinner. And that did not go over well with me. I thought I was weird because I was like, oh no, like, I think I'm just insecure. Like, I just don't like to, eat in front of guys, or like, it's just like, it's too intimate at first. Like, I love going on hikes as a first date, or doing an activity. Like, that's perfect. We're side by side. We can be talking. We can be pointing at things along the way.
Yep. Totally. Oh, you nailed it on the head. The goal is external entertainment. How can you create a new experience together and bond through that versus, are you good enough for me or not? And that's what, coffee dates kind of are. Meals in general, you nailed it. It's so personal and intimate and intimidating to eat with someone. It releases serotonin when we the bonding hormone, right? Did I get that right? Yeah.
I think so.
When we eat with people, it's, societally, culturally, like historically throughout the world, we eat with people we love. You share a meal together as an intimate expression of the relationships at hand. If this is a stranger, and not to mention too, people have really complicated relationships with food. And I personally have a lot of allergies. So in my dating career, I didn't like being like, oh, and I'm really high maintenance. Like, it's like, no. Like, I'm fun. I'm cool. Just, I want you to know that about me later. It's fine.
Yeah, I can relate. Yeah.
And then also it's like, food is a loaded topic these days, and people do have complicated relationships with it, and, all of that. So I think it's okay to be sensitive to those things and not sit there eating totally vulnerable and exposed when you're eating with someone. That's just how it is. And subconsciously that is what it is. But culturally, we've just normalized it. And we wonder why all these people are having all these relational issues.
It's in the system. The system is rigged.
Seriously.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, this could be a whole other conversation on its own, but you were talking about the relationship with food, and it's like, no wonder people, I mean, myself included, emotional eating is such a big thing, because that's where we find that love, that connection. When we're not feeling that, and when we're feeling alone, we turn to food. Ah,
That's so true. Good connection. I like that.
look at us, all these revelations.
Seriously. Oh
Okay,
my
I'm
gosh.
gonna I'm gonna shift here because I
Uh-huh.
really do want to hear about your book, and it just like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm like so pumped for you, and just congrats big time on your first published book.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it. So I have this book called Become a First Date Expert. Dating Doesn't Have to Suck. And on the back cover, my back cover title is Create Connections That Count. And that's my little tagline. And it is all about I lay things out with tangible tips of dating apps and flirting and chivalry and interpersonal skills in general. How do you carry yourself? What are your interactions with other people? How can you improve that? What are strategies that you can use to grow holistically? And how can also that be setting you up for success? And so, what happens with, oh, apologies, doorbell.
Real life,
um,
this is humanness, guys. I hope you enjoy.
real life. And so it's just really, people have just found it so helpful to break down how do you get a date? What happens before a date? What happens during a date? How do you end the date? What happens after a date? And how can you put yourself in a position to succeed with all of these? And so that's what my book is. Yeah, so I started writing it with my editor. So I connected with an editor and she was my coach as well. And God bless her too, because this was a tricky year to try to be writing a book while the world's falling apart around you. So
Mm-hmm.
I started May 1st of last year, 2020, and I worked on it for just about full time for about 6 months.
Wow.
And I don't know that I recommend that. Uh,
Yeah, that's a lot. Whew.
I learned a lot of things the hard way. However, that's just kind of my personality of like 0 or 200. So it's like, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. But now I know I will probably approach things differently if I have a round two. Um, yeah, so it's so funny writing a book. I've always loved blogs and I love teaching and I love, I've written courses and things like that. But an actual book where I'm like, okay, I have a sense for what I want to get out in the world, but you just have a blank page in front of you and you're like, and go.
Yeah. And it's set in stone. I mean, once you publish it, like that is it. There's no
Yeah.
tweaking it.
Mm-hmm. Totally. So I'm very fortunate to have had a coach kind of mentor me through it of like, okay, let's get a big poster board and bubble things out of what are the general chapters that you'd like to have or the general gist you want to teach or the flow of the content. And that was so hard. And just to be there, like, okay, this is my statement to the world. This is this will be the cornerstone of my business and my future career in general. And hopefully this future of shifting dating culture and shifting the way people connect, and especially our millennial generation.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's you kind of get it too as an entrepreneur, and I'm a perfectionist in its own way, and so being like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I want to do this right. And of course I thought it'd be this cute little like resource book in the beginning. And then it turned into this big masterpiece. And I was like, okay, we're doing this. This is the real deal, baby.
I feel like so with any creation, especially as entrepreneurs, I feel like this analogy just fits so many things. But it's like it's kind of like birthing a baby, like having a child, right? It's like you have all these hopes and dreams and aspirations for them, but ultimately, like you just get to nurture that child and like teach them things, and then they're gonna do what they're gonna do. And your book is going to become what it was going to become. You had this idea of what it was going to be, but along the journey, it sounds like it shifted and changed, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And it just turned into like some things where it's like, sure, it's actually a really good length. I think it's like 180 pages, pretty quick read. I'm pretty entertaining if I say so myself. Because a lot of I'm speaking mostly directly to men
Mm-hmm.
and who I call the good-hearted guys. And the best part is all this information is completely universal. Just like we talked about, is like, these skills can be used for anybody. Married people love my stuff, actually. It's really funny. And not that they have like some like slimy dating life, but no, it's like like just the interpersonal skills and the way you carry yourself and the way you see yourself and what is that. And so all this information really is universal. I just kind of use it more directly towards the good-hearted guys that are just starting to try to date.
I love that.
And I just think the men in general need a, like, why do I coach men is what a lot of people want to know. It's like, why the heck does this, mid-20s female want to coach all these dudes? And I just really believe they need a little extra love. Guys, especially in our current culture, are under so many pressures, so many confused narratives, and they just don't know how to be. And so there aren't a lot of coaches, much less female coaches, much less their peers, that are looking out for them. And this was all birthed out of, I have so many amazing guy friends, and I've always really connected with them as their sister figure. And I was like, what if this was scalable? What if I was able to reach more men and tell them it's okay? You're not alone. You're a good guy, and I see you, and I know that that is in your heart, and I'm going to teach you how to express that so other people can see you as well.
Oh, I love that. And yeah, like you said, where are those spaces for men? And so I think it's beautiful that you, as a female, that you're stepping into that role, because you bring that perspective of the female, of,
Yeah.
who they're potentially wanting to be with, that gender and that perspective. And so, yeah, I think it's so unique and like I said, so needed.
Yeah, thank you. And I had one client, he's like, well, I need a hot chick to teach me how to get hot chicks.
Oh, best compliment ever. I like
I was
that.
like, I mean, sure, we'll take that, I guess.
Yeah, you know what I was thinking? Okay, I'm totally going to go there because heart-to-heart conversations are about being vulnerable and real. But
Go
I
for
was
it.
curious. I'm like, what if, I mean, I know you're like pretty early in your journey of like coaching and stuff, but I'm like, what if you end up like falling for one of your clients? Like, what if there's chemistry there?
Oh my gosh, that is the forever funniest, like, and I don't mean funny in like an insulting way, but in a way of like, it's really sweet, and I'm very flattered. And not gonna lie, people take their shot all the time. And the funny part, the best one is when I just teach a principle, and then these guys slide in my DMs trying to use my line that I just taught them.
Ooh, smooth, but not.
Right. I was like, I am proud of you for going for it. However, we need to be a little more tactful with our audience that we're doing it to.
Oh boy.
So it is, yeah, the men I'm working with are very baseline, and I don't like to say like socially awkward or things like that, because I think there has a really bad rap to it. But in general, these are men that are like, I don't even know how to talk to a girl. How do I start? And I'm too embarrassed to say this. I don't know where to turn. I don't know. I can't verbalize this. I don't know how to approach growth in any area, because I'm an, 20s, 30s-year-old dude that feels really uncomfortable and insecure. And so how do I start? And that's a lot of what I'm kind of working with. So I'm not too worried in that department. However, the person I'm currently dating, he is kind of a funny, call him my ultimate case study.
Yes, it's just research. We're just doing this for research. It's fine.
And that's when in the beginning, he was like, okay, so are you just trying to like, what, am I going to be book number 2,
Because there's going to be a book number 2 on the way.
Right. And like his family too. They're like, yeah, we're still not convinced he's not just an experiment for you, but it's cool. It's fine.
I love that you can joke about it though, like make light of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's been a champ. He's an absolute champ about it all. And we're going to start doing some like fun interviews and stuff together soon too.
Yes.
Yeah. But it's just really funny with clients and stuff. And that's honestly, I'm not too public about that I'm in a relationship right now, because that's one of my best selling points, is that guys think they have a chance, which I'm like, and they're all so sweet. And I am very, very fortunate. Granted, I've gone on a lot of first dates. That is how this book was born. And it's so sweet to reflect on, who are these men that I've had the privilege of interacting with. And I've just learned so much about not only men, but about myself and about the process of dating. And of course, I get really nerdy and like sciencey about it. And it's just really fun for me to analyze, but also these are people and these are humans. And I'm so honored to have had a dose of a lot of them, and how I can now express that into like, okay, like I know, like when I'm coaching people, I'm like, I know I've gone on dates with people like you. Like I know who you are in the wild. I get it. Like then now I can know how to help you. So it is a really sweet way to kind of connect all the dots. And then when it comes to women are the best. As you know this too, because you coach women.
Yes.
Because we're already Pinteresting cute first date ideas. And like we love looking, where it's just our culture is more accepting of women looking into the dating stuff and being expressive about things, and which is really sweet and great. And so women are always my best supporters. They're the first to jump on to new things, and I'm very, very thankful for them. And it's to empower the women listening to this as well, is based on the dynamics in the world, it's really valuable for the women to look out for the men in their life, because they're like, guys are in a tricky spot. And so I love referrals. They're my favorite for women and men both. I'm like, my brother, he's so nice, this and that. And so I bought your book. It's like, good.
Aw, yeah. We gotta help each other out. It's like it
Totally.
comes back to we aren't meant to do this alone. And I feel like that's such a theme in your work and my work and what we're doing.
I love that. Amen. Totally.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to go back to the whole chemistry and compatibility thing
Yeah.
because I'm curious, because we also touched on physical touch. So I'm like,
Ooh.
Chemistry on the first date. So how do you feel about, like a kiss or holding hands or things like that on the first date? Is there like a hard rule that you tell your clients?
I would say my baseline rule is break the touch barrier right away. And granted, and I say very clearly in my book and everything, I am not a big advocate for hookups, for one night stands, all that stuff. Like I teach sustainable relationships is what my goal is. And I'm not judging that. I'm not whatever. Everyone has their own, objectives at play with whatever your needs are at this current time. Great, whatever. But for the good-hearted people that I'm working with, I think there's a lot of value in physical touch. And it doesn't need to be hypersexualized or anything like that. But just like we were talking about with COVID stuff, is we're missing hugs. We miss just like a little pat on the shoulder. Things like that are so valuable to us that I do hold a lot of high value for dating with that. So I do say always greet with a hug if you can. And again, now you have to communicate. Communication is absolutely key. If you're not into hugging, and people have that for different reasons, whether they have, tricky backgrounds or culturally differences, or now with whatever is going on, communicate proactively. So take that as it comes. But if you can, greet with a hug, break that barrier right away, because otherwise you feel this awkward ice wall between you that's cold. And if you try to bust through it later, it gets harder and harder to break it if you don't just bite the bullet and break the ice right away. So that's my opinion of just break the touch barrier, and then good things can happen from there. And you can share good body language, things like that. As far as, and I love how I say it in my book too, of like a kiss on the first date. If you're confident enough to go for a kiss on the first date, you're going to be confident enough to figure out how to ask for consent.
True. Ooh, yeah, yeah. Because it is tricky to navigate that. But even with the hug, like it's like, I'm going in for a hug, or how do you?
Right.
It's like I was even trying to think about that as you were describing. I was like, I do think that's awkward, but maybe you just embrace the awkwardness.
Exactly, and that's exactly it. If you acknowledge, there's so much power to acknowledging a common experience. So if it's awkward, you can literally verbally say, oh, it's really awkward meeting people on a first date. And they go, yeah, it is. And great. You just bonded over the awkwardness, therefore decreasing the awkwardness.
Yeah, it's like a breath of fresh air. It's like, oh, phew. Oh, you're nervous too? Oh, this is awkward.
Totally.
Okay, cool. Like, yeah, it just creates so much freedom and space.
Yep. Like we're just, and I think consent too. I really believe like consent for so many things. And I think it's important to start normalizing that. And I've had really sweet interactions of like, there's always the arguments of like, oh, but it ruins the moment. Oh, this or that. I just think if you go to hold someone's hand within 3 seconds, you should say, is this okay? Or, you know, before or after you do it, but just be courteous in that way. And there's a whole element to it too of like The Bachelor is what I love to say is you give a rose and you receive a rose. It's not just, ooh, I held her hand. It's she accepted my notion of that, or like she accepted my expression, and that makes it two to tango. That makes it a two-way street that really enhances the moment, enhances the interaction by saying like, hey, I'm acknowledging this, I'm expressing this, and you are returning and accepting that expression. And I think there's a lot of power to that, much more than like, ooh, I pulled a move, or ooh, or like, why isn't he doing this? And it's like, what if we all just communicated and expressed our emotions and then everything was smoother?
What a concept. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Communication is everything. And I'm still learning that. I'm by no means an expert. I think that like I started this interview out with, I was like, why are we not learning about this communication and conflict resolution and expressing our needs rather than suppressing them?
Oh, how different would our culture be if that was a foundational thing that we all learned? Yeah. Why is it that, we could go, I'm sure there's a million different ways we could go into that, but what if we were just given the tools as we were younger, as we were developing, of how to have relationships with other people, how to have, a lot of the guys I work with never were encouraged to have female friends. Or in a lot of girls, like some of my best friends still don't know how to interact with guys because it wasn't normalized, because everything was so hypersexualized or so hyper like, ooh, is that your boyfriend? Is that your boyfriend? Is that your girlfriend? Is that your girlfriend? And it's like, what if it's fine? And you just allow these to be healthy interactions so then they can grow up and have healthy interactions, so that the one time they talk to a girl, they don't have all of this pressure on them. The one time they're trying to flirt with this boy, she isn't, crumbling under nerves.
Oh, yeah, I'm so on board with that. I actually was thinking about that earlier of not that I want us to go out of business because, like we're here for a reason and we have our purposes, but I'm like, man, I do stand for a world where, we wouldn't have to, I wouldn't have to coach women to drop from their head to their heart. You wouldn't have to teach good-hearted guys how to communicate with women. It's like, what can we start at a young age? Maybe it would be in the education system, maybe it would be in the family, maybe the church. I don't know.
Yeah, totally. I love that though. I love that we have similar business models with that. Is I would love to work myself out of a job. And that's my favorite thing too, when I get feedback from clients, or I have a client that I've been for a long time, we were working on some basic skills, some, self-confidence, body image, things like that, which they're basic, but they're big. They're not to say that those are small, they're big deals, but we've been working on those for a long time, starting to then now, okay, what is the energy he's expressing? How is his confidence? All that stuff. And I love the message of like, Katie, I have all these matches now, or I have all these Zoom dates lined up. I'll let you know later when I need more help.
Yes, that's like mission accomplished.
Yeah, and that's just my ultimate, because they're like, what are your success stories? I'm like, granted, I've been in business since 2019, so I haven't like, but it's still too of, I would just love to help people feel empowered enough where they don't need me. And they know I'm here for them. They know I'm a resource. I want to have that relationship continued, of course, because I just care about them. You invest in people's lives. However, go fly, be free, go do it, and go kick some butt because you're awesome. And now you have the skills to know that and to do something about it, and then spread the news. And fortunately and unfortunately, there's a lot of people in the world that are going to be having a lot of issues. So I think our capacity will just continue to, we'll navigate it as we have people that need us. How do we do that? So that's just kind of just fun as a young business owner too, that I know you understand.
Yes, yes. I love the visual of like a mama bird in her nest, and it's like, okay, now you get to fly, you get to soar and spread your wings.
Yep.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we are wrapping up here. We've got a couple minutes left, and I mean, we covered a lot, but I would love to also give space for if there was something maybe I didn't ask, or maybe something that you absolutely would love to cover in this time. Go ahead and share. Like, this is the space to get it out.
I would just say, I want all the listeners to know it's not too late. It's not too late to ask questions. You didn't totally miss the bus. You're not, just being tossed around, whatever. It's like, it's okay to ask questions. It's okay to not know things that you think everybody else knows and that you're just floundering, tossed in the waves by yourself, because truth is everyone's kind of floundering in their own way. And so you're not alone in that. And it's okay to start speaking up about things. It's okay to reach out for help. And it's okay to recognize that you might have growth areas and that you're not, doomed for a lonely life. You're not doomed for constantly being friend zoned. You're not doomed for all these things. There are ways to grow into this, and it's okay. And people can come alongside you, and it's all rooted in love and support and the fact that we're in this crazy life together. And so what are we going to do about it? So I'm here as a resource. I'm so honored that Marissa brought me on, and please reach out to me. I'm pretty friendly and I don't know, I just like to make new friends. So please reach out to me on Instagram or something, or text me and just introduce yourself so I can, come alongside your life as well.
Yeah. Okay. So you said Instagram, you said text. I would love, what other ways can people connect with you? Buy your book. I'll add it into the show notes, but let's speak it into existence here.
Totally. I love that. So katiesir.com, and it's Sir, SIR. Yes, sir, no, sir is Katie Sir. And find my website. I've got all my books and courses and resources on there. Find me on Instagram. It's at Katie_Sir. And on all the little platforms, I'm Katie_Sir. And I have my texting numbers on my website and Instagram as well. So text me through my community number. That's a really good way to just be in direct communication with me, which I really do value and appreciate. And yeah, call me when you can.
Call me. I love it. Oh my gosh. Thank you.
But truly set up a meeting. And if any of this has resonated with you, to the listeners, is I'm here for you. I'm a resource. I have no judgment. I have been there and I get it. And I want to be alongside you. So don't hesitate to set up a meeting to see how we can help you grow, and stay tuned for all the resources ahead as well.
Oh, yes. So much exciting things to come.
And my book is on Amazon. You can find it through my website, but it is on Amazon under First Date Expert, or you can just type in Katie Sir and it'll be there as well.
Yeah, I'm already like, when your second book comes out, we'll have a second interview and it'll be great. Yes, no, but as you said, I'll just echo that, like, we've got you, and please reach out, whether it's Katie or myself. Yeah, I mean, and also make it fun. Like, I'd love to hear maybe some first date ideas that you have or that you're trying out, and how you're, navigating this time of dating during the pandemic. Share that with us. We love to hear.
Yes, please, please, please. That'd be so good.
And until the next episode, much love. Mwah.
Mwah.